What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to another edition of NBA Crunch Time. Hope the NFL slate is going swimmingly for you right now, and if not, we hope we can give you some picks for tonight's NBA slate to help you make some of that money back. I am joined by my friend, my coworker, my bearded buddy, Tim. How's it doing? How you doing today?
I think we're sharing in some NFL tilt today, TJ. But we got NBA slate tonight to try to get our money back, and we got showdown later. So I mean, we've got chances to get our money back tonight.
We'll be hopping on the pre-lock show for that one as well, but we're going to focus on NBA right now. Last NFL thing I want to get in there is take defenses out of DFS. Give us another flex position instead. I don't think I've gotten defense right once this entire season yet, but let's start talking some NBA. If you're making some bets today, we've got you covered at scoresandodds.com, your number one place for all things sports betting. Check it out for everything you need to make you a better sports bettor, including our brand new Parlay IQ tool, now with Fanduel Sports integration. Build your optimized same game parlays based on thousands of simulated games, and with a click of a button, you can bring that bet slip directly into the Fanduel Sportsbook. And the Fanduel single entry series is also back for NFL. Don't forget to reserve your $5, $33, and $100 tier tickets, seats, entries, whatever you want to call them, for some weekly and seasonal prizes. You can get back in them next week. You can also sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal betting state and take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1K. Terms and conditions apply. Let's start things off with FanDuel, our sponsor. We want them to keep sponsoring us. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button so we can keep bringing you some free content. But let's talk about the plays here, Tim. We just got that Grizzlies starting lineup that with Steven Adams out and Larivia out, it seems like it might be Brandon Clark night. Is he one of the first guys you're going to plug in a cash game today?
He is. I actually just tagged him as a salary saver in our lineup HQ tool on RotoGrinders, and yeah, he should be your plug and play for cash game, and he comes at a really good multi-position eligibility. I'd recommend that you play him at power forward. I think that makes the most sense, and yeah, he's definitely my number one first guy in tonight.
So I got Ja Morant and Brandon Clark tagged here as the first two pieces we are putting in for cash games on FanDuel. Who else are your kind of must plays, and then the other guys you're considering at the other positions?
So we know that Marcus Smart, he's not like the most highest usage guy, but he does matter quite a bit for that Celtics rotation because, there goes 35 minutes at point guard. So, you know, I think Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench makes a lot of sense, even in cash games. I think you could still play him. He's going to play, I'd say, anywhere between. We haven't projected for 26. He might get up to say 28. I really like getting to him for some. He's not super cheap, but he's cheap enough that he should be able to pay off that price tag pretty easily. And I want exposure to Boston today, so I'm either going to get my exposure through Brogdon and or Jaylen Brown.
What about Derek White? Is he somebody you're considering at all, or you'd just rather play Brogdon?
I would rather play Brogdon, but if you want to play Derek White, I don't have a problem with that. I think I would reserve White for tournaments, but I think it's kind of we're splitting hairs between those two guys. I lean Brogdon, but if you want to go the other way, if people want to go the other way, that's fine.
So at the guard position here, we got Morant. We got these Boston guys, Brogdon or White. We're both, I think, kind of preferring Brogdon. And then you also got Jaylen Brown as a spend up. Who else do you like here at the shooting guard position before we kind of take it over to small forward as well? A guy you can play at both that Cards has tagged as a core play right now. Underpriced against Sacramento is Zach LaVine.
Yeah, Zach LaVine is definitely the guy tonight. He is very, very underpriced. He's going to be extremely high owned, which I know we don't really care about for for cash games. But for tournaments, I would just be paying attention to that ownership. It's going to be really, really high on FanDuel. But yeah, this, I really want exposure to Boston, and I really want exposure to Chicago, and also I think Portland are the three most important teams.
I like it. Pivoting over to forwards here, we got Jaylen Brown and Zach LaVine, who we've already talked about. Kyle Kuzma up top is actually leading for RG value right now, and then Dylan Brooks looks all right. Denny Abdia looks like a solid value. Who are you looking to for at the forward positions for cash games today?
Yeah, Denny Abdia is going to be your value play, definitely. I think that Justice Winslow makes a lot of sense. If you don't have the money for some of those more expensive guys, I also think Patrick Williams would be an interesting salary saving option if you were looking for again another cheaper piece.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Portland is, I think, a very, very important team to look at today because we got Lillard as questionable. He was probable earlier in the day, listed as questionable now. Eubanks also there is questionable. If these guys are out, the Simons, the Winslows, Gafford, Grant, Nurkic are all of a sudden looking like very, very interesting plays.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to bring that up too because every game starts at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and then we have to wait 3 hours for for this last game, and it makes things incredibly tricky. I thought Watford for the Trailblazers was going to be the top value of the day today, but then Josh Hart got upgraded to questionable. We have to project him in when he's questionable, so that kind of wiped that value out of our projections. That doesn't mean that Hart's going to play though. We don't really know who's going to be playing for Portland, so it's actually a pretty tough decision what you're going to be doing. And I think that gambling on that news for tournaments is the correct play today. But for cash games, I just have to assume that Portland's going to be playing with a full roster.
And as I'm looking here too, it makes it very difficult to kind of have pivot options, like something potentially that you could do, but even no, like Benedict Mathurin and Justice Winslow are different prices. I was trying to see if maybe they had some swappability there, but it is going to be very difficult if you get wrong on this one to find ways to adjust your lineups here. So keep that in mind, but it definitely makes it very, very interesting for tournaments. Center position, if you're playing Brandon Clark at the power forward, who is your cash game center today, and why is it Yusuf Nurkic?
It is Nurkic. If he's going to be playing this many minutes, then he's an absolute smash. I'm worried that they pull the rug out from under him at any time. They're kind of notorious for doing that to him. But for right now, if he's going to be playing north of 30 minutes, then he's going to absolutely smash in this matchup. And there's really nothing we can do about that. There's no getting away from that until they start, playing with his minutes again, which I'm sure they will at some point. But until then, I'm going to just keep rostering him.
Yeah, and so something I think that is important to consider here from a cash game standpoint, when everything we have here, these four plays are kind of our cores: Morant, LaVine, Clark, Nurkic. You want probably one or two Celtics in there, whether it be Brogdon, White, or Brown. Get your exposure to them in that way and fill your lineups out with the rest of these players that Tim has mentioned throughout here. For tournaments, some of my favorite guys, these Porzingis, Kuzma, they're projecting real well against the Lakers here. I get Kuzma has his kind of a revenge spot here. He's a little underpriced, but I'm not sure how fond of this Washington team I am, despite their high total today, with those guys getting a lot of ownership. I think that's somewhere that I might be looking to get a little underweight on in tournaments. One of my favorite spend-ups in tourneys, even with LeBron playing, is Anthony Davis. He's just been on another planet as of late. We brought up liking Brogdon and Jaylen Brown and maybe even White for cash. Well, Jaylen Jason Tatum for tournaments is a very interesting play. If I was running more than one lineup, I definitely have one that was basically just a full stack of Portland and Indiana so that I could take advantage of lots of swappability later in that one. And then in terms of some salary savers I like for tournaments, somebody that we haven't talked about yet that I like quite a bit is Kevin Love. I think he is a very, very interesting tournament salary saver. If he's a last piece for cash that you land on, I even think that's okay. Brandon Clark, I think, is someone that I would borderline lock button today. But if I wasn't locking him, I'd either hit the lock button or set a rule that I want to play at least one of Brandon Clark and Jefferson Jr. in at least one of them in each of my lineups. What do you kind of think about that strategy?
So
Jaren
Kevin
Jackson,
Love,
sorry.
yeah, Kevin Love was popping in optimals up until we got this Grizzlies news. So I think that he's a spectacular play for tournaments. I think that that's going to be a very, very sneaky play that not a lot of people are going to get to today. So I really like that Kevin Love call. I really like the Anthony Davis call too. I mean, he's playing unbelievably well right now, and he's got a tremendous ceiling, and I think that he isn't going to be as high owned as he should be. So I think he makes it a really good turn.
One question from Carolina guy in the Discord that we haven't touched on yet. Favorite single entry 6K guard or less on Fanduel for shooting guard. Who would you plug in here? I want to touch on that one before we get over to DraftKings. I think the answer to that one has got to be Dillon Brooks.
That's on FanDuel, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's Dillon Brooks or it's Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, like if you want to adjust something else, I don't think I'd want to leave that much salary on the table. If you want to go,
true. I mean, if he wants somebody like exactly at 6K, then definitely it's Dillon Brooks.
Derek White is only 400 less. He is projected for about a half point more than Brogdon today, and I think the super sneaky tournament play, if you want to try it, would be Benedict Mathurin. I think he's very interesting because if you get Halliburton in, well, you're probably still just looking at your 25-ish points from him. But if he's out, you could be looking at a huge game from Mathurin, and that could be giving you some tournament winning upside there. So let's swap it over to DraftKings. Hit the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. We got over 120 people watching, and we only got 18 likes right now. I'm not even going to entertain taking QQs from the YouTube chat until we get over 35 likes in this one. So hit the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening on your phone, you got to click that little hide chat button. And then we're going to make sure that we get your questions if we get over there on 30 likes. Before we touch DraftKings, Porzingis and Patrick Williams or Kuzma and Dillon Brooks in FanDuel Cash?
I like the first one.
You like Zinger and Patrick Williams? Personally, I like Kuzma and Brooks just because I kind of feel like Kuzma and Brooks, you're looking at your 30 to 40 each from those guys. With Zinger and Patrick Williams, you kind of need Patrick Williams to, yes, he is starting today, no Javonte Green, but I just don't know how high his ceiling is. But I think both of them are reasonable options.
I do think both of them are reasonable options, though.
Yeah,
sure.
like you're not upset with kind of either one of those
Correct.
today. I agree with you. So looking over at DraftKings for cash games here, cards as core tags are Morant, Levine, and Jeremy Grant today. Grant is a lot cheaper than he is on FanDuel, and so I do like that tag there as well. I'm assuming Brandon Clark would absolutely need to be tagged there as well, considering so maybe we'll because it's a power forward, we'll plug him there instead of Clark for now. I'm just assuming that hasn't been updated, but 3-7 on DraftKings, that is somebody that no matter how many lineups I was playing, even if it was 150, I'd be locking Brandon Clark in today.
Yeah, I have Clark tagged as a salary saver today. I think he's an absolute, like, he's your salary saver, first guy in cash games, DK, FanDuel. He's the guy. So, he's a really good fantasy producer. He just doesn't get the minutes usually. So hopefully he can get around 25, 26 minutes today. And if he gets those minutes, then he's gonna crush.
I like it. And so starting, I think we should be able to expect at least that. And as long as we get over 20, he's not going to be hurting you at that salary. So let's start at the guard position. We got Morant and Levine here tagged right now to start. Are you good with those two tags on for cash games to start here? And would you prioritize then Malcolm Brogdon as kind of your third guard in at the guard position?
Yeah, it's very similar to Fanduel. I'm starting off with Morant, I'm going Levine, and then I'm going Brogdon. But the same thing you can say you could go Derek White also. So I think that those are my three primary plays at guard today.
And then while we're at this position, we do have a QQ in Discord from Luke Cage 78 Brunson. Good for DraftKings GPP. Yeah, I think there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong at all with
nothing.
Brunson in a
Yeah,
GPP
I think
today.
that's a great play.
Yeah, he's simply too underpriced on DraftKings. He's not picking up that much ownership. I think he's a great play today, even though they're facing a tough Cleveland defense. That tough Cleveland defense is usually coming inside, and it's not necessarily from Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. So let's go over to the small forward position here. The best RG value we have is an 8K DeMar DeRozan. Are you comfortable playing DeRozan and Levine in a lineup together against a lowly Sacramento defense? And is he who you're wanting to plug in at small forward here? You're looking to pay up for a guy like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, mid-tier Dylan Brooks, or are you looking to pay down with Denny Avdia?
So it obviously depends on what else you want to do with the rest of your spots, but Denny Avdia is for sure your points per dollar guy. I also like Patrick Williams. I like Justice Winslow. If I'm going up, I actually like Jaylen Brown. That's kind of I think he's going to take kind of some of the point stuff from Derek White, which is why I'm not that's why I prefer Brogdon coming in with the second unit. And then that's why I prefer getting to Jaylen Brown. I could be way off on that, but that's where I'm leaning tonight. So I prefer Jaylen Brown over DeMar. That's kind of where I'm at.
I do also prefer Jaylen over DeMar. I love getting to Jason Tatum in tournaments, but from a cash perspective, I would rather go with Jaylen there. And I agree with you completely on the Brogdon and White thing. It's like White's going to spend most of his minutes on the court with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, whereas Brogdon is going to be running that second unit. Power forward position, we got Clark in there, but we're going to probably have to play a second power forward or somewhere in this lineup because there are so many great options here. We got Jeremy Grant, who cards has tags, Kyle Kuzma for $400 more, DeMar DeRozan also power forward eligible. Avdia you can play here as well. Who is your guy at power forward in cash today? You could even like in tournaments, Trendon Watford is going to be a phenomenal potential cash salary saving option today. Just kind of hoping you get a few Portland players out.
Yeah, so it's the same idea. Denny via Patrick Williams, Justice Winslow. I think those are your options for cash games. And then if you're looking to go up, I kind of like Evan Mobley today. It's not the best matchup on paper, but he's just been the guy. He's really showing, what we thought he was going to turn into. And I think that he's a good play for tournaments. Like we have him projected for 8% ownership. I think that's great. Like I would load up on him in tournaments. And I think honestly his floor is so good. If you need somebody in that price range, I think you could play him in cash games.
So then from a cash perspective, how would you rank Mobley, Kuzma, and Jeremy Grant?
Personally, I would, because we don't really know what's going on with Portland, I don't think I can rank Grant first. I'd have to rank Grant last. And then I guess for cash, I guess Kuzma. But I guess I'm just not as high on Washington as our projections are. So I think me personally, I'm ranking Mobley number 1, Kuzma 2, Grant 3.
For me personally, I think Mobley and Grant have like kind of similar projections, similar floors. They're basically the same guy if all the Portland players are in. And then if they're out, all of a sudden he's by far the best option. So for cash and tournaments, I think that's kind of why I rank him 1 in that group. But I'm with you that like I'm kind of lower on these Washington guys than I am than our projections are here as well.
Personally, I don't think you can like I'm just, I don't think you can play Grant in cash games because if everybody plays for Portland, you could be caught like really holding the bag, and he's just not as strong a play.
I mean, are we not projecting everybody in right now though with his
Yeah.
with his projection still at 37?
Do we have Lillard projected in? We do. Okay.
We do. So we have Lillard and Eubanks both projected in, but Josh Hart projected out. And so you can probably drop Jeremy Grant's minutes if Hart is in to about 35, which takes him to a 35.14 projection and leaves him, where does that compare to Evan Mobley? One less. And so that's kind of for me why I still like Jeremy Grant, is just because I kind of feel like even if everybody's in, he's just slightly a worse play than those guys. But if one is out, he becomes the best. If 2 or 3 are out, he becomes the best by a very large margin. So I think that's kind of why I'm leaning Jeremy Grant there. But I don't think you can go wrong with any of those options today. Taking it to the center position, Porzingis is even cheaper here than he is on Fanduel, but you don't get that extra block upside. Brandon Clark can be played at the center position, but you also have Nurkic here. Who is your primary center for cash games? And do you like playing Brandon Clark in that spot, or would you rather play him at power forward?
I'd rather play him at power forward. That's just because, DraftKings is been a little stricter this year with multi-positional eligibility. So Davis is only center, Sabonis is only center, Porzingis is only center, Turner. All these guys are like only center. So I think you got to play Clark at power forward, and I am playing Nurkic as my cash game center on DraftKings as well as FanDuel.
For tournaments, I love the idea of saving salary with Trendon Watford. I think it's a great idea because even if everybody is in, Indiana plays so many bigs that he could still get some minutes, and that 3-5 price tag isn't going to hurt you today. So I think he is a phenomenal value on this slate. I like Kevin Love even on DraftKings, where he's a bit more expensive, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is not going highly enough owned. I recognize he doesn't have a huge minute ceiling, but he's still gotten up to 30 minutes in a game this year. They're heavily undermanned at bigs today, and we've seen what he can do in limited minutes this year, put up a very big ceiling. And so Jaren Jackson Jr., one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate alongside Brandon Clark. I'm totally okay with playing them together. I like both of those Bulls players. I like all of these Portland guys. I already touched on Jeremy Grant. I
love that JJJ call. Like if he plays 30 minutes, he'll absolutely crush. The issue is that you can't project him, but if he does, then he'll crush this game.
If I was playing a lineup on DraftKings today, I think I would be using my center, power forward, and utility position on Clark, JJJ, Watford, and Anthony Davis. Those I think are kind of my 4 favorite tournament bigs, and that's how I'd be using my lineup here. I'd use that center position on AD, then I'd use the power forward, and utility for the other 3, because that's kind of my favorite place to go here in tournaments. And then we look at the guard guys. Like I mentioned, I like Boston's guards and wingmen. I like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. I'm good with all those guys. If you really want to play somebody from Washington, I like the idea of going with Bradley Beal instead of the chalky Porzingis or Kuzma. And I also really like a guy like John Conchar in tournaments today. I think we're projecting him for 31 minutes right now, but I could actually see him playing something like 35, 36 minutes here with no Larivia, Adams, or Bane. And so I like him quite a bit. And at the guard spots, I prioritize Brogdon over Derek White as well. Jalen Brunson makes for a great tournament. John Morant is still a strong play, even in tournaments, not coming in as highly owned as he is on FanDuel. And that's kind of mostly where I'm looking today. I even think it's somewhat interesting to take a shot on Anthony Simons if you're playing lots of lineups, just in case Lillard doesn't end up back for this one, because he could be an absolutely great play if Lillard doesn't end up playing in this one. 8 more likes and I can start really looking at these QQs on YouTube. So make sure you hit the like button. We're 5 minutes away from lock. I'll peek over at the Discord quick. Since we got none over there, I will start taking these questions because I'm a nice guy. Last man in doesn't say the site or the format, but I think it's the same answer for me anyways. Kyrie Irving or Jaylen Brown.
So it was Irving or Brown?
Yeah.
Oh, Brown.
Yeah, it's going to be Jaylen Brown for me as well, but I do think Kyrie Irving becomes an even more interesting tournament play now that Marcus Smart is not in the game, even though Brogdon and Derek White, they're no slouches at defensively themselves either. What do you think about Nick Claxton in a FanDuel tournament?
I think it's a great play.
Yeah,
Nurkic is going to be so highly owned, and he could bust easily. So I think that's a great play.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not my highest target, but it's definitely somebody that I would be getting exposure to if I was playing lots of lineups. Any thoughts on Peyton Pritchard? That's a value that I think I would only touch on DraftKings and only if I was playing like 150 lineups.
I agree with that completely. Just that'd be an MME play only.
In a GPP, like AD and Derek White or Zach LaVine and Donovan Mitchell?
AD White.
Yeah, me too, by a very large margin. Couple minutes left to lock. Make sure you are hitting the like button for us today. When you're on it's a weekend slate, it's also NFL Sunday. How does I know you're a one lineup guy, without getting into detail of kind of what your entry fees are, what's your distribution of like single entry to large field tournament to cash, triple up, quintuple up, that kind of thing when you're running your one lineups here?
So anytime I'm on a show, I don't actually play cash games just because it's hard for me to like get in all the swaps that I want if there's like huge news. But if I'm not on a show, then it's usually I'd say like 70% single entries, 30% cash games.
And your cash straight double up 50-50s, or do you include like your triple ups and 5Xs and that? I really like those quintuple up and triple up type tournaments for my cash single entry style lineups. But I've been finding for NBA this year, the few times I've dabbled in cash, that like it's really like the cash lines are almost higher than the tournament lines each night. And so it kind of makes me lose interest in playing any cash games over there. But a couple minutes left before lock here. Do you got any bets or hot takes before we get out of here?
I just wanted to tell people kind of something that I'm doing tonight for DK. I am putting in Andrew Nembhard in my utility spot. And because he rates out pretty well. And if Portland doesn't have any like huge news, then I'll stick with him. But if I can, I'll play Watford there at my utility. Like say Hart doesn't play, or say whoever else is out, then I'm going to throw in Watford. I'm just going to keep in that last little spot there open so that I can do that.
I think that's a phenomenal strategy, especially on DraftKings where you can do it at the utility and flex multiple different guys there. I mentioned how I would want to use Watford there. Well, if all of a sudden I found out all of these Portland players are in, then that's exactly where I would want to switch to somebody like Nembhard. But the thing that's interesting that I think there, you got $4,100 Nembhard. The place that I'd want to be going if all of a sudden you get Tyrese Halliburton out, even though Nembhard would still be a good play, is TJ McConnell as well.
Right.
Because we got to remember we got Halliburton questionable in this one as well. So I would.
I know that a lot of people. I know a lot of people know that.
I'd make sure the utility is from that game. You go, Tim.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. I know a lot of people know that, but I think it's important to remind some people that maybe if you're just kind of getting into DraftKings basketball, to leave that last spot open for the latest game.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And with that, we have hit lock. Some great advice at the last second from Tim. I'm going to be back here in about an hour and a half talking this single game showdown slates between the Colts and the Dallas Cowboys. And so looking forward to that one. I'll be here with cards on behalf of myself, Tim, producer Steve, and this great team we got over here, RG. That'll do it for this edition of NBA Crunch Time. We'll see you in a little bit. Peace.